You are listening to episode number 19 of the Happy Choir podcast. Woohoo! Hola people, I am your host and creator of the Happy Choir podcast, Carlos Cordero, helping you connect with others through choral music, the best thing in the world. I have to say that I just realized that over the course of this month, I will have several guests that are fellow cooks from University of Houston. And first of all, I have to just give a huge thank to the University of Houston family, because it is such a great place to grow as an artist and to meet challenging people who teach you so much. Thank you so much to Dr. Bexy Weber, to Dr. David Ashley White. My time there was a dream come true. And for our guest today, I'm sure that this will also be true. Matthew Lyon Hazzard is a wonderful composer, conductor, and singer. Matthew is here today with us to share his journey in choral music and how he has been able to shape his career to be dedicated to the choral arts, the big dream. He is an awesome person and you are in for a treat. Just before we start, I want to remind you that your support is paramount for this podcast. You can help us by simply sharing your favorite episode with your favorite person. You can leave a review in iTunes, which help us getting found. Or you can go to patreon.com/composercordero, where for as little as $3 a month, yes, it is crazy, right? Just $3 a month make such a difference, and you'll be part of the Happy Patreon team. Now, let's hear this interview with Matthew Lyon Hazzard. And in today's episode, we have a composer, a conductor, and a singer, and a dear friend, Matthew Lyon Hazzard. Hi, Matthew. How are you?
Hi, Carlos. I'm doing swell. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to be in the Happy Choir podcast. Some people might know you as Hazmatt. Am I pronouncing that okay?
Yeah, Hazmatt. I go by that for sure. Yeah.
I was wondering, how was that born? How did it happen?
Well, I mean, it's just kind of happened with having the name that I have. Something that evolved like sometime in high school, but really took off in college. And it's hard to forget.
It's very catchy.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I would love to see it on a score or something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I could totally do that. Yeah.
Wonderful. And as I learn more about your career, I see that you do so many stuff that you're excel at, that you're great at. And I was also wondering, just a random question, do you happen to cook?
Do I cook? No, not often. But when I do, I always make some really good chili. I make a mean chili.
Wonderful. So, see, we have everything here that we love in the podcast. Composers, conductors, singers, and food. A lot of foods. So this started a little bit random, I know, but, life, it's random, so.
Snaps to that. I mean, I am a huge foodie. I absolutely adore food. So, I mean, not so random in my book. Like, that matters a whole lot to me.
Wonderful. And, also something that was random, I wanted to tell our listeners, is that the way that we met. So back in Kansas ACDA 2019, I went completely fan/stalker at you because I recognize you. I recognize you in the crowd. And then, I just went to you and say, hey, are you yourself? Are you Matt? And was that weird for you? Has it happened before?
No. I thought it was really cool because I had just spent like a couple months like looking at your score. Ave Regina Celorum Ave, because I was using it for my audition, or I was studying it for my audition at University of Houston. So there were just so many paths like being crossed all at the same time. So I just thought like, oh, well, like had I seen a picture of you, I would have been like, oh, I probably would have recognized you. But yeah, no, I thought it was charming. I felt very safe.
Wonderful. And I thought it was just so awesome to be able to meet somebody that, without knowing, led me to apply to the competition, because it happened that we both won that competition in Japan, but I learned from the competition because of you, because of
Oh,
your
really?
website. Yeah. So that's why I applied once I heard your piece performed by the choir, and it was just amazing. So I decided to apply, and I'm glad I did, and I'm glad that I approached you.
Oh, dang. Was it through Facebook that you saw it, or when did you first?
That's a good question. I think it was on your website. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. It was like on plastered on the front page of my website for a while, with the Metropolitan Chorus of Tokyo singing Requiem Aeternam. Yeah.
Wonderful piece, by the way. If you haven't listened to it, please go and enjoy that piece because it's a great performance, and well, all of your music, it's so amazing, and I'm looking forward to hear one live one day.
Thanks.
So
Well,
conductors, if you're listening to me, program his music.
nice, smooth, smooth.
Smooth. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And this was not the way that you started in music, just winning the Japan competition. So by this moment, I will have introduced to our audience the things that you do and the description of your career a little bit, but we would love to hear from yourself. What were the first steps in music? What were oh, blah, blah.
When I was 8 years old, I lived in the Philippines. I only lived there for a couple of years in Ayala, Alabang. And every time we would go to mass on Sunday, we would go to the country club. That's where they, like the Ayala Alabang country club, like where the golf course is at. They had a mass there, and like all of my relatives and their friends would sing in the choir. And it would just be this overhead display where they would slide the lyrics down, and then you would just sing the lyrics, and everyone knew all the songs. And I was there with my Tito Mike, and I was singing next to him, and that was I think the first choral experience that I can clearly recall. And so ever since then, like all throughout middle school and high school and a little bit of elementary, I always performed in choir, and it was always just something that I gravitated towards. But what really made it like the love of my life, which made me realize that I was like a total choral nerd and thought it was amazing, was hearing it was hearing Eric Whitacre's Sleep. I was a freshman in high school, and the top ensemble, they were just rocking. They had a gorgeous sound. There were a lot of older singers in there. So for a high school, it was astounding. They just had such a beautiful sound, and I didn't realize that choral music could sound like that. And so hearing Whitacre's Sleep for the first time in a concert performed by them was just out of this world. And so ever since then, I just took an extremely big liking towards choral music, and that's all I wanted to do with my life. It just clicked one day when I was in college that like the only thing that I needed in order to be happy in my life, like it always comes back to choral music, singing it, writing it, being in it, listening to it, engaging with it in every possible way. And so that's what I do. That's why, like, as far as as composition writing goes, I just write exclusively for choir because that's what I love.
That's beautiful. And the idea that it connects with from your family to then your everyday in college and in high school, and just discovering little by little, how music can be different, how the things that, one didn't know. I remember too, just discovering the next piece and just being, wow, the human voice is just amazing.
Yeah, nothing quite like two voices, or voices singing in unison, in perfect unison, voices singing in perfect harmony. I don't think there's anything more beautiful.
Yeah, and was singing your main instrument always, or did you explore other instruments as well?
I took piano lessons, like when I was in elementary school and all throughout middle school, and I played guitar in high school. But for all those lessons, I'm pretty garbage at both those instruments, so which is unfortunate. But I've always been a singer first and foremost.
What part do you sing?
Baritone. But I mean, I had to sing everything under the sun. Right now, I'm singing bass 2 for Dr. Weber's choir, concert chorale, and I was a tenor bass pivot when I was in my undergrad and sang tenor for a year in high school. That was tough, but that's baritone through and through.
Yeah, I can confirm that the life of a tenor is really difficult. It's
gosh, those high notes.
You know, and something interesting, at least for me, for my development as a singer, I entered a choir at first knowing nothing about, singing or anything, or even, harmony.
Mm.
They told me, well, you're a tenor, but we need basses, so go sing bass. And I will have these low Gs. And I was like, oh, okay, I can sing. Okay. And then just, little by little, I started losing all of those low notes until I became the tenor that I am today. And as you can hear in my voice, well, very high pitched. But, it's just, I'm in that, I like to say that I'm in an awkward place where I'm not gaining low notes, but I'm not gaining high notes either. It's just that middle range. Yeah. So who knows what will happen?
Do you miss it? Do you miss those low notes?
Not really. I like where I am right now. So even though it's a struggle, I'm happy where I am right now.
That's where we differ. I mean, like, even if I'm starting to lose my low notes as my voice gets warm, I'm like, in the middle of a song or at the end, like, if it's calling for that low F or that low E, I'm gonna go for it, even though sometimes I shouldn't. I'm just like, I can't help it. I love it.
Do you feel that being a singer since an early age have helped you during your career? Has it been a main tool that you use?
Oh, huge. I'll be the first to admit that my piano skills, which is something that a lot of teachers rely on, are not the best. I mean, I certainly work at it just like anyone else, but I feel like my strength is through vocal pedagogy and teaching singers how to sing, especially young singers, finding the joy of using their voice and how to develop it. So, I guess if I had a strength, it really is my background as a singer, and also with my writing. Like, I know what the human voice can do. Oftentimes when I write, it's things that I know that I could sing, or that I could at least hear someone singing, and so it's kind of nourished every single practice that I'm a part of.
When it came time to choose a major in college, how did you choose, and what was it that it told you this is the path that you wanted to go?
Oh man, I was a high school student in my senior year, and it was around March. So by this time, everyone's in the midst of applying for colleges if they haven't already done so, and I remember realizing that I really wanted to do music. I didn't know what it was, but I just knew that I didn't want to stop singing in choir. I just wanted to sing in choir for the rest of my life. If I could get my degree in that would be awesome, but I just didn't want to stop. So I told my mom that I wasn't going to be a doctor, and she was a little upset at first, but has been my biggest supporter. And I decided to jump into college. And at first, the big worry that I had was the same that every musician has going to school, which is like, how am I going to live off of this? And that was back, 2008 to 2012. So around 2007, 2008, I was applying to music and first exploring it. And the choral scene, like the professional choral scene, and the avenues that people make their living off of, like in terms of choral music, like that wasn't as well known to me just being in North Carolina and not in like one of those cultural hotbeds like in Southern California, for instance. And so I was really concerned, and so I chose a double major between music ed and vocal performance because I really wanted to sing, but I didn't want to sing classical. I just really wanted to sing in some capacity, really more along the lines of musical theater. But I still wanted to be involved with choir, and so I was just thinking, well, maybe teaching choir is the way to go. But ultimately, I made those choices because it was what was safe, and it wasn't really was speaking to me. So I remember there's this thing called the Choral Scholars, the ECU Choral Scholars, and this is back when Daniel Bera, who now works at UGA, when he was the director there, leading the strong legacy of choral music at East Carolina. And these choral scholars it was a volunteer group that sang student works. And when I found out that this was a thing, that students could write for choir and a college ensemble would perform it, I was ecstatic. I was over the moon, and I absolutely had to participate. So I took out my copy of Finale 2012 that my piano teacher had given me when I was in high school, and I started writing, and I had always noodled around with it, but this was the first time that I was like, okay, I'm going to write a choral piece. And then I had my first choral premiere and as a freshman in college, and that changed everything. I was grinning from ear to ear that day. I was so happy. So that's when it locked in that like, oh, I want to write and I want to sing, but I'll carve my own path. And that's what led me to composition as a degree. But I was really settled into it once I kind of had this moment of figuring out exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't just want to compose, and I didn't want to just sing. I wanted to do choral music, period. So I realized that I could carve out my own destiny by doing my bachelor's fully exploring composition. So I got my BM in composition, and then going directly into a Master of Arts in Teaching, which is a one-year program that gives you teaching certification in your subject area, which meant that I could teach choir afterwards. And I got the best of both worlds. It was like doing a double major, except I got the master's degree in the process, and I got more time to actually enjoy what I was doing.
I really love the details that you're giving here, because in your story, I feel that you were very clever into knowing, okay, I want to do choral music, but I don't want to just settle with one of the corners. I call it a triangle, where you have a composer, conductor, and singer. But you didn't just want to be in one of those corners, but you wanted to experience them all, and you found a way to learn from these different ways, these different subjects. Did you feel at any time that it was very challenging for you to, manage schedules or what you were learning?
I don't think so. I mean, my rate for writing at that time was pretty interesting. I'm trying to think about like what my schedules looked like, but when you're looking forward to what you're doing every day, then it's not really a challenge. It's more of just like logistics. Okay, well, I'm involved with this choir, or I have to put this composition recital together, but I got to do it with my friends, and and they were all singers. So when I think about pursuing composition and singing and choral conducting, I find that they all kind of feed into each other. I mean, on a typical day, especially as a student who's actively singing in, collegiate ensembles, that's just the day to day. And then, so I'm singing and then conducting as part of my course load. And then I am writing every morning, evening, every moment in between, when when I can. So as far as like disciplines and the amount of time they require and pull from you, I mean, as long as you're engaging with music, I think that's good. That's I was just thinking about, the best composition lessons I've ever had weren't actually composition lessons, though I did have good composition lessons, quite eye-opening ones. It's really just singing, like being in choir, like that's an amazing composition lesson. I'll never forget being in a conducting lesson with Jonathan Talberg at Cal State Long Beach. And I had been working on a piece the night prior to submit to a competition, and I brought it in and we workshopped it. We talked about it. We discussed like how would a conductor look at this piece and what are some vocal considerations, what things work and what things don't. I just have a feeling that like as far as it comes to choral writing, that it's just very interdisciplinary, and that conducting in choir really feeds into that. So when it comes to schedules, I don't think that they really fight each other. It's more of like a mutual nourishment.
They feed each other, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Hey people, I want to take a quick second to tell you how your support makes a difference. When you support me on patreon.com, you are not only giving $3 a month, but you are giving my brand a vote of confidence. This translates to helping several other artists to connect through choral music. Think about it as a cup of coffee that you invite me once a month. Only that is way more impactful and personal. Plus you get to be part of the behind the scenes of my career as a composer, with the many perks that I shared in there. Even if you're not able to give right now, your support listening to this podcast is great, even more if you leave a review in iTunes. Patreon.com/ComposerCordero is the link that you want to visit or share with others. Hope to see you there. Something that has come as a recurring theme here in the Happy Choir podcast is that doing these different things feed into each other. So as a singer, you will also learn what you can write. As a conductor, you will then shift your mind and think, what does the choir need from me? And, for example, I support this as a composer, that idea of that doing the other is like serving your client. So you know that conductor will look at your music and will translate it to the choir. So as a composer, you start thinking, what do I need to give them? What do I need? How can this be most suitable for this choir? And all of those little details, I see that they also happen in your story. When you go to workshop piece, then you realized and started thinking also from the other side. Do you feel that these opportunities came for you, or did you seek them?
A friend of mine, a lifelong friend of mine, once told me something along the lines of how he approached being an actor in New York City. So he went from his bachelor's straight into New York, and it's a hard life. And I asked him, like, how do you do that? That's just got to be brutally difficult. And he said, like, dude, it's just, my full-time job is auditioning, and and then my vacation is when like I actually land something. I'm like, just thinking, that's a lot of rejection. How do you face that? And he said, that's like casting fishing lines. You cast a fishing line and you don't get upset when it doesn't catch, but if it does, then it's awesome. And ever since he told me that, it completely changed exactly how I look at opportunities. And so all throughout, late college and when I was teaching high school and all like basically the past decade, I would search these opportunities. I would look up, I would Google choral composition competitions, and I found the composer's site that way, and I visit that site every like couple months and just submit to everything. And I honestly submit so many that I forget often. Like, oh, did I submit to this? Oh, I did. And then it's just like a pleasant surprise if I hear back. But if I don't, then I've already forgotten. So
Yeah, it's a random rejection, and you're like, oh, that's true. I submitted to this.
yeah, exactly. It's like a pleasant surprise rather than like hanging your, like investing your ego into it. Because I mean, I just think that it's such a beautiful way of looking at it. Like, oh, well, I mean, it'll be cool to like, knock on every door, and some people are going to answer and open that door, and you get to walk in through, and then you have a cool adventure. And if they don't, then you just move on to the next one.
And it's such a healthy way of thinking about it. So that's what I love.
Yeah, you can steal that and preach the gospel of Josh Wallenick is his name. He's the one who gave me that. And so as far as like seeking, I've found that it's kind of equal. It's kind of equal, like because of that. Just I'm always going to say yes to things, or at least try things out and cast these fishing lines. I found a lot of things have opened. So in that way, I guess I was the one who was seeking these opportunities. But as a result, there's a lot of like crazy domino effects where things just happen and they fall into your lap. I would have never gone to school in California, or maybe I would have, but I mean, I wouldn't have found the program that I wanted to go to had it not been for a composition competition by this DC group called the 18th Street Singers. I cast out that fishing line. They performed a piece of mine, and they did a splendid job. And that was my first truly amazing recording of like a recent piece, like a non-early work, I guess. They're all technically early, but it was my first time having a piece of mine performed by like an established group. That would be the right terminology. And so that recording, I submitted that to a thing called Choral Arts Initiative. They're a new music ensemble, and you should absolutely get to know them. Have you heard of that group by chance?
I feel I have. I'm not sure right now, but I feel I've.
Oh, they would love you, and they would love your work. You should absolutely consider submitting to Choral Arts Initiative. Throw your music towards Brandon Elliott.
I've heard about their program, and I was going to apply last year. I don't remember why I couldn't, but I think a friend went there last year.
Oh, really? Yeah, they have their.
Were you singing? Were you singing last year there? In any chance?
Yes, yeah, I was. Yeah, so they're an incredible group. They had this thing called Premier Project, which now, as you just had mentioned, is their Premier Project as it exists now is a workshop, like kind of camp, like this week of music making, an extended workshop course, and it happens around the summer. But before that, what it used to be was that you could submit your new music to this this website, and you would get feedback from 4 different composers or 4 different musicians. So Dale Trembore, Craig Carnahan, Jake Runestad, and Brandon Elliott, the director. They were all like going through all of these submissions with recording and giving feedback. And when I participated in that, they had sent some really sweet feedback and said that they were interested in performing it. So I got a performance out of it, and that brought me to Orange County, California, which is, just like a stone's throw away, like 10, 20 minutes from Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach. And I just realized after seeing Choral Arts Initiative perform and not only do my piece, but perform Jake Runestad's Come to the Woods. Oh, have you heard that piece?
I have. It's
so good. It's soul giving. It is one of my most favorite pieces of all time. And that was the first time I ever heard of it. And it was like Whitaker all over again. It's like, I have never heard music quite like this. I need to come here. I need to reach out. This is incredible. So So that's all to say, like, this domino effect of opportunities that happen just because I happened to knock on the door a couple times. And that led me to California and looking at all the universities around there. And the choral world is small, so everyone knows everyone. Andy Crane who was the former director at ECU and is now the director at Brigham Young University. He had sent me his recommendations for schools to look into, because I was thinking, like, I really want to go get the master's. I want to grow more. And he had suggested Cal State Long Beach. And that was like that just stuck out to me. And then, I check out a couple YouTube videos there, and then I see Jonathan Talberg having the time of his life conducting music with the Vauxhall Chamber Choir, and I was like, oh my God, this choir and this guy, I want to have whatever this guy's having. And so that's what led me to California and eventually led me to Houston. It's just it just never ceases to amaze me. Like, it's the butterfly effect. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and it can take you all over the place. So,
and it's so amazing to hear you talk about that with such passion, because I can see how you really have the fire for choral music and the love for what you do. And, I feel that no matter who you ask, that everybody that has met you can feel this energy that you put in the room. So that's amazing. And you're definitely bringing
it. What? That's so sweet. That's sweet of you to say.
Really. And the emotion that it goes with then your music. I mean, and I was going to say this, I think I've gone to Jake's Runestad website to follow that score particularly, come to Woods at least 5 times, at least. As I've also, gone through your website and then listen to the music with the following the score. I mean, it's just something that it's unique in their music that, as you say, that you discover, that you see what choirs can do. The things that you also bring to the choral music are unique in that way. So I just wanted to mention that.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
And now, but when you decided to go to California, that was a master in conducting, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So then how did you choose there to change gears? Was there a recommendation from a mentor, or was it something that you felt now you wanted to make it the main thing?
Oh, choral conducting as opposed to composition.
Yeah.
This is a heated topic of debate, and I'm actually really interested to hear what you may think. And it's tough to talk about on, the title of your podcast is The Happy Choir. And this is not, I don't know if my experiences with composition well, let's just say I have a really complex opinion and stance on composition in the university, because it has so much room for potential to grow. But there are things that I notice across composition departments, at least that I've seen in my very limited experience. This is becoming a really beat around the bush answer, but let's just say that my goal was always to be with choral music and to write, sing, breathe, live choral music. And I think that nothing does that better than choral conducting, because you're in front of a choir or you're singing in a choir every day. And then when you're not, you're writing for the choir. So to me, that seemed like a natural fit. I mean, that's where I'm going to grow and learn the most. But that being said, while that seems like a natural fit, there's also, I never even once considered doing a master's or any kind of graduate degree in composition, because I realized that it doesn't really service what I'm trying to do. Like composition degrees, from what I've seen, tend to focus on, everything. They want to broaden your horizons and grow you in every possible direction. But I already know exactly what I want to work on and what I want to do. So what I found was that since I'm so focused on choral music and slowly expanding my horizons at my own pace, that a composition degree wouldn't be appropriate, because that would be more if I wanted to explore more of a, the new music world, the instrumental new music world, which is dramatically different than the new music world for choral music. Like if you want to be closer to the new music world of choral music, then you might as well just be singing and conducting choirs, because you'll probably end up closer to that. You have directors like Dominic Diorio. He has his, I believe he has his DMA in choral conducting, but he is like the head of new music at Indiana Bloomington. He's totally made it work for him, where he's doing, like, he's performing choral music, but writing like all these commissions nonstop. He's found that beautiful happy medium. And to be honest, I feel like, most composition faculty in most universities are instrumental writers. They're not choral writers. I think it's actually quite a blessing that University of Houston has David Ashley White, because he's the first choral composition staff I've ever met in a university, in a university setting, which is kind of incredible. But that means that most of the times that I do actually have like a composition lesson, it's usually in the workshop experience. So like Premiere Project, which I just mentioned, they, like, you're having your scores worked through with choral conductors, but choral composers and people who are really familiar with the medium and know it inside out. You have Coro, which is another workshop that it takes place in Iowa with the Simpson College. Jocelyn Hagan and Tim Takesh operate that, the composition workshop that is associated with that. And I attended that and absolutely adored it. It was so beneficial. So I think there's definitely multiple routes to do the composition thing. I just happen to know what my needs are, and I think I'm pretty committed to exactly what I want to write for. And that means that I'm way more likely to benefit from, say, workshop lessons that focus on choir than I would be to pursue a composition degree under an instrumentalist. So I think that's a pretty unique situation, unique perspective on my part.
And one of my questions before was that if choosing conducting was sort of a safe path for your career. But I completely agree what you're saying about the composition degree, that if you pursue then a master or a doctorate in composition, you're expected to write for chamber ensembles, orchestra, etc. And it is so far from writing for the voice, because I also live it through that, because even from the moment of audition, you have to submit instrumental writing, which at least for me, I thought, but they are not going to accept me because my instrumental writing is not as strong as my choral writing.
Yeah, it's like a chicken and the egg kind of thing. Well, I mean, the price of writing what you truly love. Like, was it scary? Like, what? I know that you got your master's in composition, correct? And you got it at UH. Did you apply to multiple programs? Was UH always stand out for you?
This is my story. So because of the situation in Venezuela, I didn't have the money to apply to many schools as I wanted. A lot of people will say, yeah, just apply to 5, etc. And I was like, I cannot do that. So I applied, of course, to Juilliard, because that was something that I thought was a suit for me, but I was going more for the name than for the... Now that I've seen hindsight, applying to Juilliard and Cordish Institute were a lot for... because they were known, because they were places that people say you have to study there. And I have things that I love about those places, but now realizing, then my third place was UH, now realizing all of the things that I learned in UH, not only in the composition department, but also singing in the choir and talking to the conductors, etc.
Yeah.
I felt it was the perfect fit for me. And as you say, we are not. I was lucky enough to find Dr. White too there in UH, because then we can do a lot of choral music, and I did some chamber ensembles, etc. Pieces. But I used my degree, as you said, the way that I wanted. I write the choral music that I wanted to write. I explore the things that I wanted to write, and I understand how it can be a fight that you want to avoid, because if you're studying choral conducting, they cannot tell you cannot be with a choir, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's tough. It is tough. I also think it's tremendously beautiful that you found your way there. That yeah, it seems like the perfect place because of the presence of David Ashley White and their thriving composition, choral department. Though, gosh, I saw an Aura concert. Director Dr. Smith's. I'm like trying to names. What are the names? And then
I know.
But yeah, Dr. Smith, who heads the composition department, definitely knows what he's doing. I saw he has the Aura Contemporary Ensemble, and I saw a concert of theirs, and I was floored. Here's a person who knows how much presentation and getting people to buy into new music matters. I was really moved and touched by his program there. So, to read, I hope it doesn't sound like I'm poo-pooing.
Don't worry.
Composition, the idea of a composition degree, but it definitely is an acquired taste, and it definitely has a very particular purpose. And that purpose is entirely dictated by who you're studying with or who heads up those departments. And I've been fortunate enough that I've attended, events like calls for scores, and then they have new music festivals in the U.S. And I do see what a positive impact new music can have with the community, and especially when it comes to outreach and sharing art with the community, and just the sea change this outpouring of creativity that can come from it. But I'm also really aware of how I have so many composition friends friends in general who start composition and quickly with a passion for writing music, and realize that it's just not for them. It requires a little bit of a thick skin. And some people really take it hard that they want to write with an accessible voice, and the folks that they have available are pushing them towards more abstract or experimental, and that's hard. It's hard to navigate. It's a bit of a game of politics.
It is, and I have two thoughts about what you were just saying. So the first one is that I feel it's amazing too that for people that are there looking for an answer or trying to find a way to, in their own composition career, it's great to have people like you who figure it out and knew there are great composition programs out there, but they don't fit my needs because I want to write choral music, for example. So you found a way of making it work through the conducting programs. And also I had the question of, was there any fear in the process of then studying conducting, or do you feel that it was very natural, maybe the word that I want to use here? It was natural to you because of your love and your passion for choral music.
I felt like it was natural. It was something that I was always involved with. I mean, even with my composition degree, the best thing about doing a BM composition was that it taught me so much about how to build a program from the ground up. I felt like, even though I didn't take music ed courses, that it greatly benefited me and informed me what my experience would be like as a choral director. So I taught high school for 4 years, taught choral music at a high school, and preceding that was the Master of Arts in Teaching and the BM in Composition. And when I was doing my BM in Composition, the things that I thought I would learn, which were how to write a sick choral song in class, I don't know. Yeah. But the things that I expected to learn or just wanted to know more about, I did in ways I didn't expect. Like my big goal going into composition was like, it would be awesome if I didn't have to play a pitch on the piano or have a beginning pitch. I could just like, if I hear something, then I can just immediately write it down. And it turned out that like that doesn't come from someone teaching you that, obviously, but it just comes from memorizing a pitch, like say playing a string instrument like a guitar. So for a really long time, I have the strings of the guitar memorized, so I can just pull out those pitches and then write those. So, I mean, but that was my goal for composition. So I was in that degree, and the things that happened that impressed me so much were all of the things that you had to do in order to get a recital together. So did you have to go through a big rigmarole for your recital, any of your composition recitals?
Oh my God, yeah. It was really from the schedule to choosing the performance to find the people who would want to play the music.
Yeah.
What was funny is that in my first semester of UH, in the composition, then they say, okay, you have to what you wrote, now you have to put it on the recital. Okay, which one? Who are my performers? No, you have to find them. Like, this is my first semester here. I barely have like 2 friends who are not the people who play these instruments I wrote for. So how am I going to find people who wants to do this, apart from the whole thing that they are doing?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. It is hard.
And your recitals were, you told me that were singer related, so they were choral music, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was actually a mix. So I had all of my work from my past 4 years. I had always written choral music, and then I had written a lot of instrumental music since that was required of the program. And I'd finally figured out like how to fall in love with instrumental music in my own way, because it was like pulling teeth. I was very closed-minded, wouldn't be the word, but I was very stubborn. Because I knew what I wanted to do so hard, which was choral music, and they were just trying to help me grow, and I was kind of resistant to that. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. I had a mix of instrumental and choral music, and I was tasked with recruiting all the performers, scheduling all the rehearsals. They were ensemble pieces, so I needed a conductor, but there were no instrumental conductors available, and I was like, well, I can conduct it. So I was scared because I had never conducted instruments before, but it went well, and I had really supportive friends, both instrumentalists and choral musicians. I conducted rehearsals once a week with my ragtag group, choir group, and then we recorded in the summer. It was just awesome. I got to do everything from the ground up. Like, you're writing the music, you're recruiting everything, you're taking nothing, and then you're creating it into something with the help of your friends and family. And that is exactly what choral music is. Like, that's exactly what running a high school choir program was. And I used that it was just a huge boon as a choral conductor. So in ways, it's kind of funny because I feel like I got so much music education experience from my composition degree, and I got so much composition experience from my times teaching choir, because that's ultimately what's informed everything that I've done. So it seems like the titles of our degrees, while they kind of indicate what we've done, like the value that you glean from them are entirely personal and all your own. So choral conducting was just a natural thing. Like my life goal again is choral music all the time, everywhere. And so I mean I feel like my MM in choral conducting was a natural next step, and it was also one which tremendously nourished my writing. My writing completely changed after starting and really diving into my master's, and that's because of all the tremendously talented choral musicians and choral composers that I encountered while I was there.
That's wonderful. And I just want to also remind again what you just said of the title of our, the name of our title. It can be one, but you can learn so much more from what you're doing and the experiences that you're having there, because then you don't feel trapped. I
Yeah.
feel that's important in a degree that, oh, I'm a composer, so I'm supposed to be, composing. And it is just a beautiful thought of know that even though that you are on a career track, you can still make it your own and make it work for you.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
I just want to quickly remind you that all of the links that are mentioned in this episode will be in the show notes in thehappychoir.com/podcast, or find it in the description of this episode. Also, once you are there in the website, you can subscribe to the newsletter. This will come with a $20 discount for your next choral recording, a free guide that I've created just for you on the things that I've discovered in my career on how to be a happy composer, conductor, or singer. You will also receive a weekly email with podcast episodes, blog posts, and music. I hope to see you there. Now, let's get back to this episode. And I'm so glad too that this whole adventure of you in choral music leads you then to UH. It's a place that challenged me to grow so much. It helped me realize that I had more to give to the choir world than I thought. So that was important for me as a composer to get there, and then know that I could sing better than I thought I could, and I could also grow. Not only, this is a singer that I am and I cannot go anywhere else. No, I didn't know any IPA, or I didn't know, all the vowels that I needed in English to sing, and got a lot of looks because of my Latin American pronunciation. But I got the looks and then the help with it. Like, oh, you're doing this sound, we need this sound. Perfect, I can do it. So it was a very healthy learning process, and I loved my time there. And I'm so glad that you're there, because I feel that you make the perfect fit for this program.
Duh. Thanks.
Now,
Means a lot coming from you.
for the final part of this interview, I would like to know just a little tip that you can give to the listeners in this podcast. And the question that I have is, what is something that you wish composers would know or do?
That is a good question. I'm like, there's so many things.
So look at the way that I ask this question is for composers, conductors, and singers, and you can choose to just answer one if you have one, or the three. Feel free here. So let me know if you have like a preferred one.
Composers. I think young composers in general. If you want to write for for choir, there is tons and tons of opportunities to do so, and it's not just limited to, your education isn't just limited to your degree, and it isn't just limited to who you're studying with. There's just an amplitude of amazing choral musicians out there, and I think you'll find that if you talk to your DCA, your director of choral activities, or if you talk to someone who loves choral music and is invested in choral music and has opinions about choral music, that'll take you closer there if that's what you truly desire to write for. And that it's not just limited to your degree or the professors of a comp program. You can do whatever you want. You could take your degree in whatever you want, and if you make the time to write, then you'll keep on writing.
Something important also that I feel is that reaching out is something that you can do. You can find somebody. I will be open to receive emails, and if there's something in my experience and can help somebody else to write their choral music, I will be more than glad to do. And is that something that you will be open to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if anyone wants to reach out to me, that's just send me an email, lyonhazzard@gmail.com, LYONHAZZARD. And I'm always here. I'm always available. I love speaking to people who are either just, trying to figure things out, or they're writing music and they need feedback or guidance. I'm absolutely here.
That's wonderful. And of course, this will all be in the show notes. But also something that I feel it's important is not only because this helps somebody else, but I was also on the other side of asking myself, I want to know how they did that, or how I want to know what do they think about fill in the blank. And people are more open to these things. So reach out and ask the questions, because A, you might get an answer, or B, you might not, but that doesn't matter. Nothing changed. So just reach out and you can get some surprises, because I've got some of them. I feel, for example, I've reached out to this composer to ask many things of where he went to college and where when he went to apply for summer programs, etc. And it's been like 3 emails, so I'm sure that I'm reaching my my limit here. But he's been so open and so insightful with his answers, so you might get a surprise.
That reminds me of a story. I had messaged Eric William Barnum via email. Like, I just messaged him and I was like, hey, will you look at a piece of mine? And he totally did. This man who's like an incredible composer, like with the gorgeous pieces, like he sliced out an entire, chunk out of his time just so he could help me out with a thing that I was writing. And that meant so much to me. And it's all about casting that fishing line.
Exactly. See, now we are full circle back.
Yeah. It's perfect.
Where can people find you online?
You can find me online at lyonhazzard.com, LYONHAZZARD. You can find me on the Face Place, Matthew Lyon Hazzard. I'll friend you, probably.
I loved it. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for this interview, for taking the time to speak about your experience in the choral world. And I loved, again, that you always knew, and you know that it's choral music, what you want to do, and then you just thought, how do I do this? Where do I go? What do I do? So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me. That's great.
See you in the next episode of the Happy Choir podcast. Ciao, people. Woohoo! You've been listening to the Happy Choir podcast. For more information and show notes, visit thehappychoir.com.